I'm Dr. Mike Cosgrave. I'm coordinator of the MA programs in Digital Humanities in UCC, and I teach several modules, mostly in the first semester. So you will be seeing a fair bit of me online entirely between now and Christmas. I wanted to talk about the various modules I teach, and here I want to talk about the Communities of Practice module, which is a big topic in digital humanities. Traditionally, humanities scholarship has been a very solitary thing. Humanities scholars work alone on archival documents in libraries. They tend not to interact very much except at conferences. The digital humanities has very much taken a different path and has stressed community and scholarly sharing. And that also fits in with a developing movement in the academic world generally in favor of open scholarship, and also a recognition of the need for things like science communication, the ability to tell complex stories in a way that can be understood intelligibly. So community is important. Working together is important. Understanding how communities work is important. The digital has enabled us to create groups of people in new and exciting ways. Sometimes not good groups of people, but very often powerfully useful and strong positive groups of people. And you will all no doubt be members of communities online using various different collaboration tools which allow you to interact with people for various different reasons, effectively and positively. And some of these are for functional things. The WhatsApp group for the local football club. Some of them can be more for fun. Online Facebook groups that talk about knitting, whatever it is. So we're going to look at this. It's important. One of the big skills that we emphasize through practical work is how you build, operate in, nurture, support these online communities using digital tools. And of course, that has become much more important now. The ability to build an effective online community and make it work is now a really important skill. So we're going to look at how these communities come into being, and we'll look at some videos and some TED Talks and some discussions by people in the field who've been exploring this for 10, 12 years now. We're going to look particularly very early on at online discussions, because a lot of what we will be doing from week to week will be responding to readings, which includes videos and other things, broadly construed and with reading prompt every week, responding to those in online discussion forums. So we'll be looking at the academic research on how discussions work. What are the stages they move through? How do they reach a conclusion and move on to the next phase? We'll be looking at crowdsourcing, which has become a big thing in research. We'll be looking at personal learning environments using digital tools. And we'll be doing that mainly as is partly to develop your own understanding of how you build your personal digital learning platform, your network, but also as a stepboard or springboard to understanding how you then build collaborative communities. And we'll be looking at collaborative annotation, which is fun. We'll be looking at how network research happens now, how networks of scholars and other researchers work together. And then we're going to be moving in the second half of the course to actually doing practical collaborative work together. You'll be moving into groups of 5 or 6 on shared topics of general interest. We'll match people up in that way. And we'll be doing some collaborative writing. So we'll be looking at how people write collaboratively. We'll be looking at how people divide a writing problem between a group of 5 or 6 people, do the various bits, integrate them into a single document. We'll be spending a little time looking at the nuts and bolts of how you do peer critique. How do you have a discussion with a group of people about a piece of writing where you discuss the nuts and bolts of the writing and how to make it better and how to integrate 5 or 6 pieces of writing into one coherent whole? And how do you do this effectively? And how do you do it without it degenerating into a shouting match, which is really important? How do you do it in a professional way? And it's not just writing in terms of writing 2,500 words of text with footnotes, because the very act of writing now has changed. The way in which we tell stories demands not just text, rigorously argued with footnotes and solid body of text, but it also requires the ability to tell the same story as an audio podcast, as a presentation of some sort, as a video podcast. All of these things will be working off the same body of content and the same basic message, but putting it out in different channels. Even games. How do you tell a story through a game, for example? Although some of my other modules look at that in more detail. So how the course works, as I said, we build from week to week. The first part will largely be individual work responding to reading prompts and discussions. In the second half, that will continue. There will be individual contributions to discussions, but there will also be this collaborative writing process happening in parallel. As we read about the theories of how this works, you'll be doing the practice. And then at the end, you will gather all this together in a single document and submit that to me. I will obviously have a pretty good idea as we go along how people are getting on. I'll be giving people feedback, and the marks will accumulate. So for the first 4 weeks' work, there's 10% of the marks going. For the middle 4 weeks, there's 20%. For the last 4 weeks of the discussion postings, there's 30%. And then that leaves 40% for the final product, your final reflection on what you've learned, in which you gather together what you've got out of the module and write a short statement of that. And for me to distribute around where to reflect people's particular strengths. So because this works on a week-to-week basis, this distribution of the marking gives you a bit of focus to help you manage your time and keep on top of things, and not let things slip too much, which is all too easy in online learning. Since this is online, and I'm avoiding an hour-and-a-half commute in and out, morning and evening, that means I have a lot more time this year to actually focus on giving people feedback. And there will certainly be points after the first couple of weeks. There always are in my courses where if somebody's slipping a little bit or not really getting in the groove, I can reach out to them on email and have a little chat and get people back on the road, to make sure that everybody gets to the end point together. So it's different, it's interesting. Those of you from a humanities degree undergraduate will not have been used to the idea of writing collaboratively. But in the real world, businesses work in teams. So this is an important set of skills for you to absorb through practice. You're not going to be perfect at it on one run through, but by the time we get to the end of this journey, you'll have a pretty good idea of how this works, and how to set about making it happen productively, whether it's for research or work, or just, organizing the under 14 soccer training, whichever it is. Any sort of community, you'll know more about how to make it work. And we will have achieved something and had some fun on the way.